There you go.
Cool.
Okay.
I don't know. Oh, it is recording. Okay. All right. Well, like I said, if you guys would be willing to give a little introduction, that would be very appreciated, just so people can get the context, because I feel like a lot of them don't really know the background of like what Crestone is and like your guys' roles.
Okay. Well, since I was the founder, I suppose I should start out. Is that right?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Well, it got founded, this particular site got founded as a meditation center, got founded sort of by accident. I was part of an organization called Lindisfarne, which was a kind of international mom and pop conference center. And we built this building and were given the site by Morris Strong, who was the Undersecretary General of the United Nations 8 times, I believe. And he, anyway, gave us our little portion of this, which is at present about 400 acres. And then the Lindisfarne Association stopped using it for a variety of reasons, as a meeting center for the Lindisfarne group. They didn't know exactly what to do with it, so they gave it to me. And so I moved here and I accepted it I turned it down in 87 and accepted it in 97, maybe
87.
87, and I moved here full-time in 91. And we've been trying to practice Zen here. We've been practicing Zen here and trying to develop it as an institution ever since then. And we're happy that you're interested, and you when you become part of the development.
Thank you.
This young lady here, she's over here, is my teaching successor, and she's mainly the director, practically speaking, of the center, our center in Europe. And she's now here with a team of people to help us figure out how to be a practice and retreat center, personal retreat center for people in, which may require a reinvention of Zen practice. And she's here, and the folks there with the multicolored nimbus over his head is the director, Brian DeCamp, and Laurie. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And it's you don't have to overdo it, you know.
Pretty nice nimbus myself. Look at that.
That's good.
That's
Yeah.
a Noguchi nimbus. Yeah. I'm not nimble enough. Anyway, so I turn it over to Nicole.
Yeah, hi, my name is Nicole. I started practicing when I was 17. I think I don't know if there's any of you who were present in this meeting last year, but we talked about last year a little bit about how each of us got to practice. For me, it was basically to tell the short version of the story. Pretty much just that I was at that age. I'm from Germany, and in Germany, that's around the time when you have to make your first own life choices. And yeah, that was a situation, having to make choices for my life. My problem wasn't so much that I didn't know what to do. It was quite literally more like I didn't know how to make decisions that I felt belonged actually to me. Like I had real insecurity and doubt around who that meanness is supposed to be, because I had a really strong feeling of, I had the sense of I kept watching my own decisional process and, I want to do this, I want to do that. And I realized in a nutshell that you know, so many of the thoughts that I was thinking of what I like and don't like, they felt like they didn't belong to me. They were like borrowed from, I don't know, from culture or from people that I admired or from things that I felt I should think and so forth. And that actually put me into a pretty severe late teenage crisis, which made me seek, made me want to understand better how to build a life that I would end up actually wanting to live. Because I was pretty sure I could see how quickly how quickly I could see just with the friends I had at the time, how quickly, oh, I can orient myself at that friend because she thinks it's cool to be a doctor. And then I become a doctor because she thinks so. But I could see how fragile everything is and how friendships ended and so forth. So I was really insecure around the question, how do you build a life for yourself? How do you actually know what you want? How do you know what to trust with all of the different feelings and emotions and thoughts that one has? And I don't know how you guys are feeling, but when I was 17, boy, did I have a lot of feelings and emotions. And so it was pretty confusing. And anyways, that's that in a nutshell is the kind of questioning that got me into meditation practice and got me onto this path. I found the Zen Buddhist Study Center, which is the other place that Baker Roshi has founded at around that time, and just found that sitting still was a real response to the questions I had for some reason. And maybe we can at some point talk about what sitting still really means, what it means to each of us. But basically, for me, that was the entry into practice.
Thank you, Nicole.
Sure.
All right, Brian and Lori, do you have anything to say about your time at Crestone or your positions there?
Oh, sure. Yeah, maybe I'll just go back and say some of the things that Nicole just said really are also true of me. I think I started having certain kinds of questions when I was quite young, actually, maybe in my teens. But it took a while as I hovered around different kinds of activities, some of which I still do, martial arts, but I think, when I actually landed in meditation, I just knew I was home. And it began to be able to, I wouldn't say answer questions in any kind of like cognitive sense, but it started to fulfill something that I probably couldn't even explain until I started meditating. So I started in 1981 in a different Sangha and practiced with them, and then practiced on my own for a while until I met Baker Roshi in 2007 and have been practicing with him and with this Sangha and with Nicole since that time. But I moved here about 2.5 years ago. It was really, the fulfillment of a request, an inner request, and a dream that I'd had for quite a long time, was to live monastically and really dedicate myself to this life. So it's sort of like a dream come true that I get to live here. And in my position here right now, I'm the guest manager, so I take care of those people who are coming to do individual retreats or who are coming for events, like New Year's, which Emma attended just a couple of months ago. And I'm also the work leader, and then I sometimes spend time in the kitchen.
We are glad when you're there because the food is good.
I've had that food. It's very good.
Yeah, so I'm Brian, and similar. I think the stories that I've heard are parallel my own story fairly well. I think that when I was in my early 20s, I was I was convinced that I needed to get out of the poverty that I had grown up in. So I was very career oriented when I was right out of college to try to heal some of those wounds. And that worked for a little while. And then I had a somewhat traumatic event where my brother fell very ill and nearly died right in front of me. And that really began to make me question how I was going to live my life, how I was going to spend this time that I have. And so I quit everything to try, and I didn't even know what Buddhism was at the time, but I knew that there was something that I was missing, that I wasn't finding in my culture, that I knew existed from my own experience, and I needed to find what that was, and went on my own pilgrimages, became a children's ski instructor, wandered around the country in a truck and tried to figure out what I was missing, and eventually stumbled upon Zen Buddhism and just had an instant resonance with what I've been trying to do in my life. And very soon after that, I think in 1995, I first met Baker Roshi and came down here to the Zen Center from Boulder, and I just I can pick out the exact spot on the campus here where I just stood, and I realized that this is a home. It's not something that's somewhere else, but that my home was here. Of course, it then took me about 20 years to actually move here, but yeah, it happens that way too.
But we could always tell you felt at home when you were here.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Brian. One other thing I was gonna say to give other people some background is if you guys could describe like just the daily life at Crestone, or even Nicole, how it is at Germany. Yeah, if you could just do like a short little summary of like from waking up till like the evening zazen and what goes through the day there.
Is anyone there considering coming to spend some time here?
We'll see.
We'll see. Well, I mean,
Depends on the schedule, you think?
I'll be back.
shall we make it sound easy, exciting, or illuminating?
I think just tell it how it is.
Oh, okay. Then I'll let Nicole and Brian and Lori do that.
Yeah, Brian, Laurie, why don't you do for Crestone?
I'm trying to.
And
They have me on a tight schedule to rewrite some of the website before they all go back to Germany, and we have a tech crew here to work on it with Brian. So I will go do some rewriting. So if you do look up our website in any near future, you'll find my version of what life here is like in encapsulated phrases. Okay. It's so good to see you all. It's actually kind of exciting for me to think of you all considering what the hell is practice? Shall I do it? What is it? It's kind of curious. It's for seekers and finders.
All right, thank you, Vikaroshi.
You're
and
welcome. And I hope we see more of you now.
Not a
No.
camera.
Oh, I hope we see more of you sometimes.
All right, thank
And your
you.
mom too. She looks like quite a person.
All right, thank you.
Can we see them?
Yeah, so Emma we see there's a camera that we're looking at, which is actually showing us on a computer monitor and a very colorful art painting and some arms. Is there another way that you're?
Group can be bigger.
Yeah,
Sure.
I can switch that right now if you guys
Yeah,
want
you
to
can
start
switch
with the
that camera, then we'll
introduction
be
so we
able to
don't lose any
access the
time, but
group.
I'll switch up the mic and the camera.
Okay, great.
All right, did one of you guys want to start kind of explaining what a day at Crestone is like? But just like a short introduction so we can get to asking
Yeah,
questions.
so one of the first things that a lot of people notice when they come here is that we wake up earlier than you would normally wake up in your everyday life. Right now we have a very relaxed schedule because we're trying to create a new website and develop a lot of the programs that we have coming up this year. So in our very relaxed schedule, we sleep in until 5:30 in the morning. Typically we wake up at about 4:30 in the morning and start meditation at 5. And usually we have maybe 2 periods of meditation in the morning. And it depends upon what time of the year you're here also, but generally in the summer months, there you are, now we can see you all.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, thank you. That's much better. But generally in the summer months, we might wake up at 4:30 and start meditating at 5, and maybe would have an hour and a half to 2 hours of meditation, and followed by chanting and incense offerings for a service. And then a little bit of a break before we go to eat breakfast together. And then work periods are a part of what we do here. So work is considered a practice. It's not just something that you do when you have to because you'd rather be doing something else. But we actually try to make work into a mindfulness practice throughout the day. So we'll have a work period in the morning, and then we'll have lunch, and then we'll have another work period in the afternoon. After dinner, there's usually some time for independent study. And then before we go to bed, we have another 2 periods of meditation, and then we get up and start it all over again. There are other schedules that are more challenging, and I won't get into those right now, but chances are if you were to come here most times of the year, that would be roughly what a schedule would be like. Maybe 2 periods of meditation in the morning, 2 at night, a couple of work periods, and even some meals together in a community style.
Yeah.
What does independent study look like?
Yeah, so it has changed form. Most of the time, like typically, and maybe the way it at core should be done. I mean, I hate to use the word should, is that people are studying on what they want to study, whether they're looking at a sutra or reading a book, or nowadays listening to a talk or watching a Zoom talk, because so many centers have implemented online meditation and online study of Buddhism. But people would come together and would be in the same room. It would actually begin with a little chant. And then people might be studying things together, but they also might be studying things just on their own. And then at the end of that period, we would chant again. So there's a there's a feeling of there being a parentheses on either end of the study period of some chanting that brings us into a feeling of study as practice. These days, there's a little bit more of some people are going to their rooms because they'd like to listen to a talk and maybe transcribe it Or they just kind of want to be solo and do some kind of studying. So it could even be actually that people are chanting on their own and that they consider that to be a kind of study. And they might want to do that in their own room so they're not disturbing others. So it's taking a lot of different forms right now. But this feeling that we enter into that hour together and then we close the hour together is kind of gives it a very, very special feel. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you for the question, Brian. I was gonna say now would be a good time to open up the questions for anyone else in the room or anyone else on the Zoom call. So does anyone here or on the Zoom call, of course, you can raise your hand with the little button, but it is now open for anyone to start with their questions. And if you'd like to grab a Zafu and sit over here just so everyone on the call can see you guys, that would also be great. But I'll open it up.
Emma, can I just ask how many people have been on a call like this before? Are there any people from the last one who are with us again? Oh, great. And
Yeah, a couple
new
people. And do you want to move
others
over here?
who are new? Wonderful. Thank you.
That's pretty good. Okay, did anyone have any questions they wanted to start with? And it can literally be like very basic about just life or Zen or whatever. Should have written all the things I thought about.
No,
I definitely had some.
I do.
Emma posted some things on her story and I responded to them, but I don't remember the questions I asked.
I can look
Can
them
you look
up.
through them?
Definitely.
We could
Brian,
tell
do
you
you
the questions you should be asking.
Sure.
Well, that
Nicole,
was
do you have,
intimidating. Sorry.
no, I was gonna say, Nicole, did you have any questions to suggest to start it off?
You're asking me if I have any questions?
Yeah.
Ask yourself a question, please.
Okay, well, you could, for instance, we could explore what a seeker is, since that word was used before. But that'd be interesting to understand also from, I mean, there must be some sense for those of you who are in this call, you must have some interest. So that may be related to the question of what a seeker is, but also you might just, there must be something there. And really, I mean, it's very important, I think, in exploring our experience that we shouldn't censor ourselves. So whatever got you to want to participate in this call, maybe you can just bring up where that interest is coming from. There's probably a question in there, even if you don't know how to formulate it in such a way that it has a question mark at the end.
I've recently been thinking about like sitting and how to, if there's like any ways to do it better, I guess. And this is sort of related. I think someone earlier mentioned that we would talk about what it means to really sit or something along, I'm paraphrasing, but yeah, what was that about? What's is there like an authentic way to sit and do zazen?
May I respond? Sorry, Brian.
Yes, sure.
Yes, please.
Okay, well, I get us started at least, because I think that's a super important question, especially in this time and day, something I've been thinking about recently a lot. And of course, I'll only speak, that needs to be clear, from my understanding for our tradition. So I'm not saying in general at all, this is the right way to think about it. I'm just saying this is how I think our tradition would understand the question about authentic practice. And I want to bring that into contrast with inauthentic practice, which from my point of view, you know, there's something really fundamental that especially in this culture, I think we need to look at, which has to do with, we have a mindset, not so much that we have chosen that, it's just so it seems so natural to us, a mindset of goal or result orientation. You know, everything needs to be in the service of something else almost. And if I was to just put in one line, what would make the authenticity of practice is that you find a way to practice, meaning to engage each moment of your life, that it's about nothing else. It's just about itself. This moment of your life, like you're just sitting there now, it's not for you to learn something that you can then take home. No, it's just about sitting there at this very moment. It's complete in itself. So the question of authenticity, I would drive home to that point of self-fulfillment of each moment. And, you know, just, I mean, we could expand on that forever, because I'll give you a bit of a spoiler alert here. What that is going to entail, it's not so easy. Like, otherwise, why doesn't everyone just engage each moment all the time with this feeling of, oh, this is complete. There's nothing outside of this moment. This moment doesn't need to serve for anything else other than itself, its own aliveness. Well, the spoiler alert here is one thing we have to discover, almost like as a chemistry, is we'll need to open ourselves to ourselves and to the world in a really different way than what we're used to, if that sense of completion is going to be real. So yeah, anyways, there are a couple of implications on what I just said, but I really liked your question. And I think if you say, okay, what makes sitting authentic? It is that feeling of you're not doing it for a purpose. You're doing it because some feeling of wanting to inhabit this life and this world for its own sake almost. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Thank you.
I really appreciate the whole idea of like, you don't need to take the thing home with you. You don't need to take any like realizations. Just living is living.
Yeah.
Brian, I forgot to look at the questions that you asked. Did you want to check if you had any of those?
I know the one that I texted you directly because I was like, it'll be easier for me to look at that. I was asking, when did you guys start feeling the most human?
Tell me what you mean by the most human.
I feel that oftentimes in life, a lot of people feel like they're just living roles that aren't their own, that they're just doing the motions, and that it isn't like feeling real. And the inverse of that is feeling real, and that feels away probably. When did you guys start feeling the most that?
Yeah, that's great. And I think what a great way to frame it too. I think it relates a little bit back to some of the things that Brian said. And, you know, as we were introducing how we got into practice, like, it feels to me like maybe what you're talking about is, when did we feel our own aliveness? Like really our own aliveness. And that for me is when, I can't say when. What I can say is that it's an ever unfolding experience. And maybe I'll tie this back to the previous question, which is, the authenticity aspect of practice. For me, it is the aspect of just being as present as possible for my experience directly, my direct experience, void of any anybody else's thoughts about what my experience should be, or anybody else's description of what my experience should be, but really the total feeling of it, and without judgment, abstaining from the judgment aspect. But that's a practice in of itself. It always arises, that judgment piece, but can I actually notice it and then just let it go and just be there with my breath and how I'm sitting and the delight in that. So maybe that's the way I would answer your question, using slightly different words from ones you used.
It's great. I can add something to that too, is that one of the I talked a little bit about this schedule that we have, and especially certain times of the year, like on a 90-day practice period, the schedule is incredibly full, and you don't really have a whole lot of say in the schedule. You just follow the schedule, and this is difficult for some people because we have a tendency to want to live our lives based on what our preferences are. But as Nicole Tatsudo Roshi said earlier, those those aren't necessarily your own, right? It could be that somebody else is kind of telling you what you should prefer. And so to really take a step back from it's very counterintuitive, because what you're saying is that if you stop trying to chase all of your preferences, you're going to be able to take that step back and see your preferences on a surface of something. And you can begin to feel yourself without these preferences. And the paradox is that because you're in this situation where you don't get to pursue your preferences of what you think is going to make you happy, and then you realize when you let go of having to chase or have your life directed by your preferences, now you've gained a new level of freedom, because you can begin to feel that you can make choices without from an intention of how you want to live your life that is not distracted by your immediate intention, your immediate preferences. And that feels more, this is me now, because I'm living from this intention and not from this script of preferences that are partially my own and partially been given to me, and I may not even necessarily agree with them all the time.
Yeah, I think it'll pick up from here.
Okay, it'll
Yeah.
pick up from there. Like, but yeah, like on the topic of preferences, then yeah, like today I had this issue where I was trying to get through like an organic chemistry lecture, and I like on and then I kept sort of, it was online, right? So I kept sort of getting distracted, and then I went off to dig in the fridge and come back and continue watching, things like that. Do you have any tips for how directly in order to do that, to sort of I guess like let go of these sorts of preferences and really be able to focus on the things we want to do?
Did you guys hear that okay?
Sorry?
I was just making sure you guys heard that okay.
Yeah, we heard the question, yeah.
For me, in my practice, the first piece is just to be able to notice it and to recognize it when it's occurring. And I think that comes with when you're steady about practice and doing Zazen, no matter how long it is, doesn't have to be like a super long period of Zazen. You don't have to sit for hours every day, but the steadiness of it begins to actually, your perception and your ability to notice, my own experiences, my ability to notice is better. And that's the first piece. It's like, going from this state of, oh, I'm just distracted, to, and going in a number of different directions, to one day, which you're already expressing, you're already actually reflecting that you're noticing it. So I think that's the biggest piece, is just noticing without judging, and noticing, maybe you do follow that distraction and get involved in it. And maybe there are times when you actually go, yeah, I don't need to do that. I don't actually need to get distracted. And so then you do begin to shift your behavior a little bit and stay really absorbed in this moment. Suzuki Roshi's guideline for Zazen was, don't invite your thoughts to tea. Don't follow them. Don't get distracted and get engaged in your thoughts. Does that mean that the thoughts aren't going to arise? No, they are. But do you follow them? Or can you just sit back and go back to your breath? So, but the first piece is noticing that it's happening. My experience anyway.
Thank you.
Maybe I could ask you all a question.
Oh, sure.
So, do any of you want to share really it's kind of hard, it's a difficult question, but can you share with us a feeling of what you're seeking or what you're hoping for, or what kind of life do you have a feeling is possible, but you're not sure how to actualize that? Is there anything, like, you're all in this room for a reason. You're all clearly thoughtful people who are really questioning, how should I live my life? Do any of you have a feeling for how you can describe that? What you're looking for?
I can start off with just like a general, I guess, just topic. For me, it's mostly just finding certainty, which is weird to kind of be searching for in Zen, because it's all about like the paradox of the uncertainty of life. But I think especially when it comes to like decisions, because I don't know, being a human, you have to make a lot of decisions. And then I don't know, when I start to just step back and try to think, where is my idea of this judgment coming from? Like, am I judging things out of like my fear, or like trying to find comfort, or trying to find something for every little decision I make? And then I don't know, none of those things I really identify with. So I don't really know I don't know, finding a certainty of like identity to move through decision making with is kind of what I'm looking for. I don't know if anyone else has anything to
Thank you.
say.
Yeah, that was really helpful. Thank you.
That was really, yeah. Well, I guess like I think I first found like Zen practice through like quarantine and just, being somewhat aimless, but it's and I definitely benefited from it a lot then, and being able to sort of be present in sort of a lot of uncertain times, and also like just I had a pretty easy quarantine, not gonna lie. Like I genuinely didn't have that much to do. So and then if I found it like, being mindful a really good way to stop sort of going on the sort of internet rabbit holes and stuff like that. But now that I'm in college, I am still sort of questioning a lot of what I should be doing at any given time, or, what sort of path I should even be taking. So if you guys have any tips on that.
Closer
Ah, there was another person.
Hello. Hey, haven't seen you in a while.
Sorry.
Well, you're whoever spoke last, what's your name?
Caitlin?
Caitlin.
Oh,
Mhm.
I just realized we
Ew.
never did introductions.
Yeah.
Since nobody has any questions right now, I was thinking we could just go around our little circle and say our names. For you and the guys in the back, probably speak up a tiny bit since the microphone is over here. But I guess you guys already know me. My name is Emma. Next person
My
around.
name's Ferdinand.
I'm CJ.
I'm Ariel.
I'm Leon. I'm Ian.
I'm Caitlin.
Adrian.
Adrian, you're like right behind you.
Adi. I'm Jans.
And I'm Brian.
Well, it sounds like both on what Emma said and also what Caitlin said, the recurring topic seems to be something around decision making. Did I get that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And just maybe one, I mean, it is, I think, first of all, just to acknowledge that we are really shaping our lives. You know, decisions, I guess we get that intuitively when there's this insecurity around how to make a real decision. And ideally, decisions have the kind of power that they will carry you through something, right? I mean, if you make a decision, you're saying, I'm going to do this, but you're at the same time you're creating one life with one decision. And it doesn't even have to be the big decisions. It can just be something like, what am I having for dinner? There are 10,000 micro decisions every day. And most of our lives is happening in micro decisions. And one of the insights that a practitioner would start having soon actually into their practice is how much our life is really shaped by micro decisions. And that micro decisions then also, they form a path, which, and I literally mean seemingly small things like, am I gonna do my exercise today? Or am I going to put it off yet another day? Am I going to meet this friend? Or am I just feeling too tired for that? There are all of these decisions every day. And we don't think of them usually as life-changing, but in some, there are patterns in them, and they are shaping our lives. And so just to really, I think one view that is important for a practitioner to have is that, how can I put that best? It's like in contrast to sort of assuming that more or less things are the way they are and will stay the same. I can do this or I can do that, but basically my life will stay the same. As a practitioner, as a yogic practitioner, you have a basic view of everything you do and even what you think or how you engage what you feel right now is that all of that is a way of shaping your life, and that life isn't that big abstract thing that has a span of say 80 years or something, but that life is a nowness and a here-ness. So these tiny little things, like for instance, getting up and going to the fridge, that's a decision. And it creates a certain nowness, and it creates a certain here-ness. And there is a kind of gravity in that. I think one of the just things I want to bring in as a possibility, if you're interested in how to think about decisions, even, is just bringing in the idea of intentions. Decisions ideally should be based on intentions. That's when decisions are strong, and that's when they're going to be nourishing. There's a nourishing feeling if you feel like you're doing what you're set out to do. You're doing what you want to do. And why is that nourishing? Now that's a real question. You can check into what is that nourishment in there. I think one aspect, there are many aspects to it, but one aspect is there's a kind of power in it. There's a power in feeling connected with an intention that you actually believe in. And now here's another craft. Which intentions do you actually believe in? And which are just borrowed? If you want to go jogging because somehow there's an ideal sense of a person should be slim and muscular or something, but you don't actually believe in that ideal, but you're constantly confronted with it, and you're half consciously taking it on for yourself, but not really believing it, then going jogging isn't going to be nourishing. It's this thing that you somehow feel you should do, but don't really have a deep connection with. So what I recommend also in Emma and what you said is you use the word identity at some point. I recommend however you use that word identity, just play with it. And if it helps you, then that's fine. And if it doesn't, that's also fine. But to replace that word identity at that particular point with intention and see what is the intention that you want to live from, because that's a lot easier actually to locate and to start feeling clear about. And those intentions, that's a process of, it's not a head process. Oh, I think about it and then I find the right answer. It's what we call an incubation process. You're feeling something and you're letting your life show you what has power for you, but real power. What has real power for you? And that's the last thing I'm going to say. I sometimes suggest doing what I call a why cascade. Like you can go, I want to go to the fridge, but I also want to listen to that biochemistry lesson here. Okay, why do I want to go to the fridge? So you ask the why question and go, because I want a snack. Why do I want a snack? Because I feel something is lacking. Why do I feel something is lacking? Because there's something disquiet in my presence right now. I can't quite settle. Why can I not quite settle? Because I'm not clear about what I want to do. Why am I, that's a why cascade. You just follow the rabbit, you follow it down the rabbit hole until you reach a point that you start feeling, this is real for me. This is real. This is what it's really about. And at that point, I call it the end of the why cascade. At that point, you can form really strong intentions. And then the task and the craft is to keep connecting to those intentions that have real power for you.
Thank you, Nicole. That was really good. I'm glad we're recording because I know we're not supposed to take leftovers or whatever, but there were like 3 specific things you said that I'm like, I need to keep that somewhere.
Yeah.
That was very nice.
I'm actually, if anyone else has a question they want to ask, you can ask it real quick. I think some of the people on the call may have to go at 8:30, which is actually 9:30 there. I forgot daylight savings started a few days ago, so they're like an hour later than us. So I'm also going to grab a piece of paper if anyone wants to like write down their questions instead of saying it out loud. But for now, I'm opening it up again.
Okay. Can I go?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate understanding like intention. And once you understand your intention, right, there's you can get a lot of like nourishment or like a feeling of fulfillment and purpose from like moving with intention. I know like the question was posed earlier, like what is the life we're envisioning for ourselves? And I think like when I think of my intention, I think of like wanting to be helpful or wanting to help people, wanting to do good in the world, and also like wanting to reduce harm. And I feel like the practice of Zen can give me a level of awareness, because when you're present-minded, you can see things more clearly, and you can be more careful and more aware of like, this is what you're doing, and I guess this is what I'm doing, and this might be helpful for people, or this might be harmful, and that present-mindedness, and that is so important. And then beyond just like the personal, I also think of like a more larger scale. So I also think of like there's problems in the world, right? And then there's a lot of harm that's being done, but there's also like good that people are doing, people are helping other people. And so my intention of like what I guess my purpose for studying this and what I'm trying to I don't want to use the word gain, but what I'd like to see is just being able to help people and reduce harm. That's my intention. That wasn't really a question. I just wanted to share because I know the question was asked earlier.
Yeah, thank you. What a wonderful expression. Thank you. And you know, when there's something called ordination, the ordination ceremony and the process of ordination and ordination doesn't necessarily mean monk. You can actually be ordained in a lay context. It's called taking jukai, and there are certain precepts that you take. And it sounds like you already know them because you just talked about them. I vow, the three of them are, I vow to avoid harm, I vow to do good, I vow to live for the benefit of all sentient beings. And you just talked about those things in your own expression. So yeah, thank you. Okay.
I have a question. So, Nicole, you mentioned about the intentions, the word using intention rather than using identity. I like it, and I also understand your intentions as well. To help us embark the Zen Buddhism journey. And my question is, what would be the Zen's intention to the society, or what is the society's intention as a whole? What's your take on it?
Yeah, that's a good one. And at the same time, it's actually conceptually fairly easy to answer and practically very difficult to enact. It sounds like you're from India, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The Indian people I've met really are embedded in Buddhist culture. Is that true for you too?
Yeah, I'm from the southern part called Tamil Nadu. Yeah, we have a lot of scripts written in Tamil of Buddhism as well.
Okay. So I need to be a little careful because you're more of an expert than me here. But I would say the way I would frame, as Laurie just said too, and was expressed in your colleague there also, the core Buddhist intentions, of course, are the ethics, are the vows. But we could go one step back and just ask, what is the vow inside the vow? Is there something like one core intention that all the vows don't harm, do good for others, live for the benefit with others? Is there something in there that is, I call it the vow of the vow. What's the vow inside the vow? And I do think, this is happenstance. If you ask tomorrow, I might answer differently, but I just have this book here right now, Social and Communal Harmony, which is a book in which what they discuss is how in the very, very early days of Buddhism, what the main questions were. And I do think they are still very alive also in our practice in the West. And I just phrase it really like with a core dilemma, is that all human beings, if you ask them individually, of course not all, but most human beings have a deep longing for inner peace and outer peace. Nobody wants to be at war. Nobody wants to be in conflict, not with themselves and not really with others. And oftentimes outer conflict is about avoiding inner conflict, right? I mean, sometimes we go into outer conflict because otherwise we'd be in inner conflict. So, but basically, I think that's a statement that I think most human beings would actually subscribe to. If you had a choice of living in a world and living inside yourself in a way that it was at peace, a basic feeling of peace, then most people would say, yeah, I want that. I wish for that. And at the same time, even, 2,500 years ago, and even within the closest circles, not just between big nations, but our closest circles, we don't get along. We barely even get along with ourselves. So what's going on? Like that basic dilemma of we keep producing suffering for ourselves and for others, like right now, big time with the ecological crisis. And yet we long for peace. So I do think that the Buddhist path, the way I understand it, is a way of trying to practically put this human, which I think is actually an evolutionary, I think there is an evolutionary benefit for our mind to be the way it is. But it's, so I think it has developed in some biological way. It has made Homo sapiens a pretty successful species. But it's also made us, we're also suffering from the implications of it. And so I think the Buddhist endeavor is actually, and I think that is our intention for ourselves as practitioners and for society, is very simple, actually. You may know this, the word that's translated as suffering is dukkha. And the etymology of dukkha is an axis, the axis of a wheel, when the axis is not at the center of the wheel, but it's a little off. And that's dukkha. I love that etymology. If something is a little off, our wheel of life, individually and collectively, the axis of our wheel of life is not quite at the center. It's a little off. And the intention for the Buddhist path is to put it back into its center. And that's a real, it requires effort, because you're, to some extent, I'm fairly convinced of that, and new science shows that we're working in alignment with our deeper intentions and our longings, but we're working a little bit against our own neurobiology here. The human species is actually a super tragic thing, super tragic existence. So we're working in alignment to put this axis back into its center, in alignment with our own longings, but against our neurobiology. But we have the power. Our intentions can be stronger than these tendencies if we learn how to. Again, that's where we kind of are going full circle. If we can learn how to really follow the power of our deeper intentions.
I have a follow-up question to that. You mentioned that peace, we all have, the intention, we all need to strive for the peace. You also mentioned that the origin of Buddhism 2,600 years ago, how it got developed, and looking at the history, the Buddha, it was more of a speech preaching. Peace is the core idea. Peace is the core idea that has been taught a lot, and also looking at the history back, because of the peace, there is a lack of defense that other kind of communities kind of invaded, and the Buddhism is not as major as other countries than in India. It's a true fact, though, right?
Yeah.
So what would be your take on that? Choosing peace did kind of went in a little different direction in the place where Buddhism started.
Yeah, I'm not sure I heard the entirety because you're a little far away from the microphone. So I just say what I did here. First of all, that proves the point to some extent, because there is a evolutionary disadvantage to that peaceful life. That's part of the point. The human species is partly so successful because of violence, which is kind of terrible. I always think, if I think that thought, I always think that's terrible. But that's So there's that disadvantage, but you know, I don't know. I think the endeavor, from my point of view, and maybe Brian and Laurie want to say too, because that's a really complex, almost political, societal topic, really. The topic, the point that I would want to bring up is the game isn't over yet, and let's see what actually prevails in the long run, because I do think as a species, we have to learn how to do the right thing just because it's the right thing and not because it's going to be successful.
All right, I just wanted to cut in real quick because I know it's almost 10 o'clock there, I guess. So if any of you guys at Crestone do have to leave, I'll get in the camera. If any of you guys at Crestone do have to leave, that's perfectly fine. And I'll just give you a little moment right now to say your goodbyes and maybe just any closing notes. But our club